I've owned my own training and consulting business for the last 3 years, and I can tell you, I've learned a lot in 3 years. So if any of you is considering at some point owning your own business, I thought I would give you the top 10 things that were most important for me to know as I started out as a business owner. So does that sound good? Yep, you guys, anybody want to leave based on that, or are you all good with staying? Okay, all right, very good, awesome. So lessons from my leap. Now, I still say to this day, every time I make a presentation, every time I coach a client, every time I go into a new company for an engagement, I learn something new. So it's not that once you get to a certain point in owning your business that you know everything. Every day is a learning opportunity. So I just decided what were the top 10 things that made a difference to me so far, and I'm gonna walk you through them right now. So number one is have a very strong sense of belief in yourself. Believe in yourself so profoundly, so persistently, so powerfully that you believe that anything is possible. The number one person that's going to believe the most in you is you. And your belief, your self-belief in your potential and the ideas that you had for running a business, those set the foundation for everything else that happens to you as an entrepreneur. Belief is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you believe that good things are going to happen, there's power in that. And I'm sure you all have heard of the law of attraction before. The law of attraction is essentially like a universal law, and it's very similar to something like, let's say, the law of gravity. And we're all familiar with the law of gravity. And it says, basically, if I drop this clicker on the ground, if I let go of this clicker, it's going to fall to the ground. Do you agree? Yes? Does everyone agree if I let go of this clicker, it's going to fall to the ground? I could go to any state in the US, I could go to any country in the world, any person that I run into and say, what's going to happen when I let go of this clicker? And every person is going to say, it's going to drop to the ground because it's a universal law. The law of gravity is a universal law. It's always true. Well, the law of attraction is also a universal law, and it's always true. And what the law of attraction says is that everything in the universe is made up of atoms, and those atoms are vibrating. If you took a microscope and you zeroed in on an atom that made up any substance in the world, it would be vibrating. And some things vibrate at a high frequency, and some things vibrate at a low frequency. And that's just science. That's fact. We know that to be true. And so what they therefore say is that your positive thoughts, your positive belief, that actually your thoughts have a vibration, and it's a very high vibration. And so the law of attraction says things that are vibrating at a certain frequency attract other things of that same frequency. It's like being some sort of a magnet. You're going to attract things to you. So if you're thinking positively, chances are if you're profoundly and persistently thinking positively about yourself, you're going to attract positive things in your life. Have you guys ever had a friend where one thing happens to them, something goes wrong, and then something else goes wrong, and then something else goes wrong? Well, the law of attraction works in the opposite way as well. My best friend is like this. She's the kind of person, well, she'll be like, oh, I just got a jury notice. I got to serve jury duty. And then that same day, she'll get a flat tire on her way home from work. And then she'll have a water leak that weekend in her condo. And it's like one thing after another. And it's the law of attraction working in the opposite way. So above all else, you must believe in yourself. If you don't believe in your dream to start a business, to be a successful entrepreneur, chances are you might live up to your lower expectations. So belief is number one, going to set the foundation for everything you do. Now, belief is not hope. You don't hope that you open a successful business. You don't hope that you get a new client or hope that you actually can sell something. Hope is not a strategy. Belief turns into actions, and then action forms a strategy. Number two, prepare purposefully. Now, I could have just said prepare, and you guys would have understood what that meant, but I want you to prepare purposefully, which means you actually have a plan. You're actually intentional in how you're going to prepare to open a business. Now, for me, I didn't know anything about running a business. I had worked full-time for someone else my whole entire life. I really had no idea, and I didn't do a lot of due diligence ahead of time, talking to other business owners and asking them what it took or what advice they may want to give me. I just kind of stumbled into it. I thought it was a great idea, and I gave my 2 weeks notice. Well, the one thing I did do was I saved some money. And I saved money for quite some time. I was in a job that felt like it wasn't going to be the right fit for me. And so a year before I actually quit, I started saving some money into my savings account. So I'd put a little bit aside each month in anticipation that I wasn't going to have a paycheck anymore, and how was I going to survive? So saving money helped me launch my business. It's the number one thing on why I'm actually still in business today, because income for any new business goes up and then it goes down, and it goes up and it goes down, and it goes up and it goes down, and you never know from 1 week or 1 month to the next how much income you're going to have. And so by preparing purposefully, having a bit of a financial plan, I was able to weather the months where I didn't sell anything. And so don't underestimate having some money reserves. Open up a credit line when you can, and have some things as your plan B in case the money doesn't start rolling in on day one, because it might not. Now, in addition to saving money, planning purposefully might be talk to some other people that are in the industry that you want to open a business in. Get some advice from other people who are doing already what you might want to be doing. So learning to avoid some of the pitfalls that other people have learned in their own journey will help you in the meantime. So is there somebody, in my case, were there some people I could have talked to that already owned a coaching business or already owned a training business, and they could give me some advice for my first months and my first year. So you cannot over-prepare, just know that. The only time over-preparing gets in your way as an entrepreneur is when you become paralyzed by preparing. And that means when you're just getting ready and you're getting ready and you're getting ready and you're getting ready and you never stop and actually open the business. It's that old theory of ready, aim, fire, where you go ready, aim, 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 and you never actually fire. So over-preparing can tend to lead to paralyzation. So we want to make sure we're prepared, but we're prepared purposefully. The next point is be patient. And I can vouch for this. I'm just going into my 3rd year of running my own business. Just finishing my 3rd year of running my own business. And I can tell you, it has required a level of patience that I never imagined I would need before. And it's patience first and foremost with myself, that I don't know everything about running a business. I don't know everything about coaching and training people. And if I'm patient with myself, then I'm more open to learning more about it. And I'm not getting constantly frustrated by the challenges that are coming my way. So we need to have a little bit of patience. You don't know everything, but that's okay. You're new in business for a reason, and that's so you can start to chart a course to some sort of level of success. And that's a journey. And if we get impatient on day one or in year one, it may limit our growth in future years. So I tell myself this every week: just be patient. Just be patient. As long as I've got my head down and I'm doing the right work, success and momentum and clients, all of that is going to come at a force that is going to be amazing. I just have to be patient with the process. I heard a saying once, it's called, let patience do its perfect work. Because sometimes I may be going through some challenges. I may have some pretty tough lessons. And I need to be patient that I'm learning that lesson for a reason. I can't let it get me frustrated. One of my very first clients, I was probably 5 months in to running my own business, and I got a contracting gig that was 6 figures. And I was like, sweet, owning a business, that's not tough at all. I could totally do this, 6 figures. And I should have known, easy come, easy go. We started working with this client, and after a month, it became very clear that they weren't going to pay us. So we kept working for another month just to be sure, and we realized this client was up to no good. And so I didn't get the 6 figures, and I, in fact, didn't even get 1 figure. I didn't even get 0.01 figure from this client. And it was a lesson that I needed to learn very early in my business. I had to be patient, that maybe before I was going to be super successful, I was going to learn a lot of lessons. And to this day, when I tell that story, people go, aren't you so mad? Aren't you so angry? And I was like, nope. I'm so happy I got that lesson 5 months in, because it would have been more painful if it would have happened 5 years in. But 5 months in, I think I rebounded a little bit more quickly. And I learned that maybe I need to prepare my contracts a little bit differently. Maybe I need to ask better questions going into something that seems like easy money. So be patient. The next lesson is embrace bravery. Now, I picked this word embrace because it really is a picturesque verb. So if I would ask Danielle to stand up and I say, Danielle, can I give you a hug? And I gave her a hug. You guys would know what that looked like. I'd give her a light little squeeze. She's a friend of mine. But if I said, hey, Danielle, can I embrace you? Whoa. Eyebrows would get raised, right? You'd be like, whoa, I think I know what that word means, right? That means I'm going to grab her, I'm going to pat her on the back, or I'm going to have like strength and vigor when I hugged her. So that's what I mean when I say embrace bravery. I'm not saying give it a light hug. I'm saying full force, go in with your most courageous self if you want to own your own business. Above anything else, I think courage is one of the main skills that you're going to need to venture out on your own. Bravery has shown up for me in so many different ways. Brave to just believe in myself. Brave, obviously, to quit a full-time job that had benefits and perks and friends and outcomes that were predictable. Brave enough to rely on me and my own work to help my family survive. Brave enough to have client conversations. Brave enough to start sales conversations where that was a little bit uncomfortable. So bravery is one thing that I think is underrated and under-talked about when we talk about opening your own business. See, bravery means different things to different people because we've all experienced different things. We've grown up in different families. We have different life experiences. And so our courage has been tested uniquely between each of us. And so I may need bravery for something that is super easy for you. Or I may do something where you go, oh, I could never do that. And so bravery is a different requirement for every person. So you're going to have to assess yourself. And usually the step of needing courage happens right outside your comfort zone. So wherever you're staying within your own reach, usually you need some courage to breach beyond that. And I can tell you, if you open your own business, courage is going to be required almost daily. I heard something in a training that I was in recently, and this woman was talking about this idea of having courage, and her solution to it was 30 seconds of courage. And this is a to-do she gives herself every day. And she says, every day I try to do something that requires 30 seconds of courage. And that helps her just take the initiative to do some things that she normally wouldn't. And so after I had heard this woman speak, and she planted this idea of 30 seconds of courage in me, I had a list of to-dos I wanted to get done one day. And one of them was to follow up with a client who was not calling me back. I had emailed them, I had called them repeatedly, and I felt like I was bugging them. So I said, today is the day I'm going to call this client. And I was like, no, maybe I'll do it Monday. Maybe I'll move it to the week after. And all I could think of was procrastinating it longer than I should have. When I thought, 30 seconds of courage. I picked up my phone, I dialed the number, I pressed send, and I went, there. That was my 30 seconds of courage. And then I left her a message. She didn't pick up the phone. But it's amazing how powerful just having 30 seconds of courage might change the way that you lead your life. The way that you take care of things that you have been avoiding, the way you start conversations that maybe you haven't had, or maybe you approach future investors or future partners because you had that small window of courage to get you started. So 30 seconds of courage. The fifth lesson is about learning. Now, obviously, you're all in school here, so learning is a structured environment for you. You have teachers that help you keep you on task. You have tests. You have requirements in order to get a certificate when you're done. So learning isn't something you have to really try that hard at right now because it's coming at you and it's almost being pushed on you. It's not something you have to go out and seek. But the second you're graduated, your learning stops. Unless you proactively and intentionally do something about it. So keep learning always. Some of you will be so thankful that you're done with school, you'll practically burn your books, and you're like, I don't want to learn. But just know that your competition in any business that you have they may be intentionally learning. So if you look at the person sitting next to you right now, maybe that person is going to be your competition for a business that you want to start. And what if that person intentionally, consistently learns? They're studying their business, they're going to classes, they're checking out the competitive landscape, they're watching videos, they're getting advice from mentors, and they're purposefully making sure that they're staying abreast of what they need to know to run the business. And what if they're doing that and you're not? Well, for about a week or so, I'm sure that's okay, and maybe even for a month or so. But after a year or 3 years or 5 years of not continuing to invest in yourself while another business owner is, that's going to make a substantial difference to how your success level plays out. So keep learning, especially when you leave this structured environment. So there's proactive learning, which is you actually make the decision to go get something, to just say, hey, I'm going to buy this book online and I'm going to read it, or I'm going to go to this 3-day seminar, and you're proactive with that decision. So that's one way you can do it. The other way you learn is called reflective learning. And reflective learning is I'm going to think about what just happened, and I'm going to try to find the lesson here. So if you go back to me getting stiffed by one of my very first clients, I think about that a lot. I reflect on it a lot, and I try to extract what was I meant to learn from this. What can I learn? What lesson is here? What can I change? What can I optimize? What can I improve? What can I avoid based on the lesson that happened to me? So you can proactively learn, and then you can reflectively learn. And both of them are going to provide a lot of value to you. You just have to make sure you're doing a little bit of both. Experience is always a great teacher, but reflective experience is an even better teacher. So take some time to think about what happened today, what went good, what went wrong, how could I have avoided it, and just ask yourself a few questions to make sure that you're keeping learning a priority. Learning is really about making an investment in yourself. We say leaders are learners. That's a very cliche soundbite, but it actually works. Leaders are learners. You won't find anybody who's sitting in the top seat of a Fortune 500 company that isn't making their own learning a priority. So what does learning look like for you? Maybe you're a book lover, and keeping a consistent stack of books by your nightstand is easy to do. Maybe you're all about video and you just want to find some great TED Talks or some great online workshops that you can take. Maybe it's personal interaction and you want to find a mentor. Whatever style it is for you, that's fine. Just make sure you're doing it. So keep learning. The sixth lesson is something I call quit. And I don't say quit like I want you to go out and quit your job right now or throw in the towel. I don't want it to be any sort of depressing sense of the word. When I say quit, I want it to be in an empowering sense of the word. So quit doing what's not in your best interest. Quit doing what's not in your best interest. And I'm sure when I say that, a few of you might think of things that you do that maybe aren't working in your favor right now. And I call these career-limiting behaviors, and we all have them. It's the little things that we do that are getting in our way, and yet we continue to do them. And at some point, they may limit our career. So one of the things I do right now is I coach struggling managers. And usually they're at a pretty high level because most companies won't invest in an outside coach unless the person is at a certain rung in the organization. And so I coach high-level people who are struggling, and often they're struggling with a behavior that they should have quit a long time ago. I used to work with a girl, her name was Deb, and Deb and I worked at Oakley together. And she was a project manager, and she aspired to be a senior project manager. She wanted to lead people. She wanted to have a team of her own. So her and I had a lot of conversations about what it would look like for her to get promoted to be a manager. And therefore, we had a lot of conversations about a career-limiting behavior that she had. So I'll describe Deb for you. Deb had brunette hair. She had razor-sharp bangs. Her hair was really curly, and she dyed the tips of her hair red. And every day she wore red lipstick. And for some reason, Deb could just pull it off. She came in and she looked smashing. Her red tipped hair and her red lipstick. If I would have tried that, I would have looked like Bozo the Clown. But she looked pretty hot, and she could pull it off. So every day she would come in with her red lipstick, except on some days On some days, Deb would come in and she'd have no red lipstick on. And you just knew, without even talking to her, that she was in a bad mood, that she was in a really bad mood. If you were in any of her meetings with her, you knew she was in a bad mood. If you were on the receiving end of any of her texts or her emails, you knew she was in a bad mood. And the problem for Deb was these no lipstick days were happening more and more frequently. So the question to ask her was, if you say you want to do more and you want to be more and you want to have more in your job, then we have to start seeing a change in your behavior. You actually have to quit doing this thing that's holding you back. So for you, what do you need to quit? Maybe you need to quit being arrogant, or you need to quit being bossy, or you need to quit complaining, quit doing just the minimum, quit finger pointing, quit gossiping, quit keeping your hand down, and quit keeping your mouth shut. Quit making a mountain out of a molehill, quit procrastinating, quit stalling, quit slacking. What do you need to quit doing in order to grow into your most successful self? Quit doing what's not in your best interest. So think to yourself right now, if I had to quit one career-limiting behavior right now, what would it be? And just think about it. Bring it into your awareness. What's something you're doing that you know is holding you back? At this stage in your career, it's much easier to make a change now and to course correct than it will be 20 years later when that is cemented in as a permanent habit. Quit. This gentleman up here, maybe you know who he is. He's retired General Colin Powell. He was a 5-star general. He was the former Secretary of State. And he wrote a leadership primer. If you Google Colin Powell Leadership Primer, it's going to come up. It's on SlideShare. It's 26 lessons in leadership. And since Colin Powell was so famous in the military, these lessons have a military context. And one of the things he says is make the best decision you can with the best information you have as swiftly as possible. So he says leaders act swiftly. And he actually even has a formula for this. So his formula is this: P equals 40 to 70%. Now, P is the probability of success that you're going to have with any decision that you make. And then 40 to 70 is the percentage of information that you have in order to make that decision. So if I'm out on the battlefield and I have a decision to make, and I make that decision with less than 40% of the information I need, guess what? Soldiers will die. But if I'm also out on the battlefield and I wait, and I wait, and I wait till I have more than 70% of the information I need to make a decision, guess what? Soldiers died. So the sweet spot for decision making is between 40 and 70% of the information. So what do you do when you have between 40 and 70% of the information? You go with your gut. And Colin Powell, as you can imagine, he has a pretty sophisticated gut when it comes to military decisions, right? He's a 5-star general. So he is very learned when it comes to military operations. So his ability to go with his gut in that arena is extremely high. So if you want to make better management decisions, better leadership decisions, better financial decisions, better relationship decisions, then you have to be the Colin Powell of that particular area. I'll tell you a story. My girlfriend had some problems with her car, and she called up her brother, and she said, hey, I've got problems with my car, and it's not really working. He goes, tell me what it's doing. And she says, well, it's making this weird sound. He goes, well, what sound is it making? So she kind of tries to describe. She's like, it's kind of going, and then it stops. And he's like, okay, sounds like maybe your alternator's running low, and it's affecting your battery, okay? Well, the reason why he knows what might be wrong with the car when she makes some silly sound over the phone is because this guy has worked on cars his entire life. He was always under the car in high school. He knows how to rebuild an engine, and he's pretty sophisticated in that area when it comes to diagnosing what the problem might be. So for you, any arena in business ownership, in business in general, that you want to be able to make pretty good, swift, and accurate decisions, then you got to be versed in that area. And you don't have to be versed in everything, but maybe you pick one and you say, I'm going to be really good in analytics, or I'm going to be really good on management decisions, or I'm going to be really good on working with people and the decisions that are around managing others. And then when a question arises, a decision is needed to be made, you can act swiftly because you're more prepared to do so. I'm going to tell you about another guy. I'm going to squeeze this in here. His name is Rory Vaden. And Rory Vaden's a motivational speaker, and he's an author. And he kind of has a spiel. A lot of motivational speakers have like a platform. And Rory's platform is called Take the Stairs. And his blog is Take the Stairs. I think he wrote a book, Take the Stairs. His Twitter's Take the Stairs. And everything he does is talk about this idea of take the stairs. And the idea is this, and if you learn nothing else from me today, this one might be a game changer for you. And he says this: when you go to a mall or like an airport and you come upon a set of stairs, usually right next to it is an escalator, yeah? And what do most people do? They take the escalator because we're humans and we're lazy, right? So we get on the escalator. Most people take the escalator. What Rory Vaden charges you to do, you as somebody that wants more success than the average person, you who wants better returns and better results than the average person, you take the stairs. And by actually physically making that decision to do the thing that other people are either unwilling or unable, flat out refuse to do, you will metaphorically say, I am willing to do the work. And so take the stairs. So when you think about it, this is why athletes who are at the elite level, why they become so successful, because they're willing to practice at 4 a.m. They're willing to shoot 1,000 extra free throws after practice is over. And they're willing to take the stairs and do the work that other people are unwilling, unable, or flat out refuse to do. Act swiftly. The next point is to diligently, absolutely diligently connect with other people. I'm sure if you're taking any sort of business classes right now, they'll talk to you about the importance of networking. Network, network, network. And you hear that all the time. And you think that means I got to go to some boring association meeting, I got to shake hands with a bunch of people I don't know, and at some point that's going to pay off for me in my career. Well, it doesn't have to be that way, but you have to be diligent with your efforts to do it. The connections that you make and you foster now will pay off rewards in anything you want to do in your career. If you're looking for a future job, if you want a potential future partner, if you want some clients for your business, you have to diligently connect with people. So for you, while you're still in school, this may be making LinkedIn your best friend, getting your profile on there, scouring the LinkedIn sea of connections to find people who are in the industry you might want to be in, who have the job that you think you maybe want to have, or really might be doing something that's just fascinating and you want to connect with them. But the more connections that you start to harvest now, the more you'll be able to make them work for you and to leverage them as you get deeper into your career or into your entrepreneurship. Someone told me to think of networking, to like forget that word and just call it net building. You're just building connections and being active in that. And that means not only outside of the companies that you work at, but inside the companies. So if you get your first job working at a business, you've got to network within those four walls as well. You've got to find the people who are influencers, the people who are doing cool things, and introduce yourself and find out more about them. I've seen a lot of really stellar things happen in people's career because strategic people at the company knew who they were. They'd be like, oh, I know that girl. Gosh, she always comes and talks to me. Yeah, she'd be great for that job. And so you get a reputation of being a connector and someone who's considered for better opportunities, but you have to be active in this. Again, if the person sitting next to you is spending the next 18 months diligently connecting and you aren't, ultimately that may impact the success that you have versus somebody else who is. So reach out, make connections, start conversations with people. Even now, every person that I meet in any context, no matter what they do, I'm trying to figure out a way that what I do for a living aligns with what they do for a living. And so I'm a speaker, I'm a trainer, I go into companies and I teach on manager and leadership development. If I meet someone else who's maybe a health coach, I start thinking, well, how can we incorporate some leadership into what they're doing? Maybe they're a trainer. Maybe after a training class, we talk about, strengthening your mind. And so you're going to strengthen your body in a class, and then we're going to stay after, and we're going to talk about the mindset of a leader. And I'm trying to just figure out ways that I can partner with other people. And it's not really whether it's a successful thing or not. It doesn't really matter if it happens. What the exercise is me creatively thinking about other partnerships. And so it's really the activity of thinking about how I could partner with someone versus did it actually happen and is it a viable thing? So you want to make sure you're always strategizing. How can I grow my company? Who can I partner with? Right now, if I just relied on a client calling me and hiring me to come in and train, my business would be fairly small. So I strategize ways. How can I get money from training? How can I get money from coaching? How can I get money partnering with other coaches and maybe supplementing them? How can I sell some things online? And so I'm trying to have a lot of different avenues that could potentially bring me revenue. And this is advice for anyone who wants to start their own businesses. The connections that you have with other people oftentimes lead to different revenue streams for you. So diligently connect. Well, at some point you actually have to do some work. Right? I think starting my own business is the hardest thing that I've ever done. I think I mentioned earlier I was pretty naive about what it took to actually make money. And I was like, I could get someone to hire me. I could get someone to bring me in for training. That's not a problem. Until I actually was seated at my kitchen table with my laptop on day one, and I realized actually it is really hard. It's really hard, and it's really hard every day. Just to stay persistent, just to stay disciplined and focused on what I need to get done. See, there are two ways that you work on a business. One of them is you work in it. So for instance, I'm here speaking, I'm working in my business. Yesterday I was at a client training, and that's working in my business, doing the thing that is my thing. But there's also working on the business, which is my invoicing, which is my research, which is my writing, which is my sales calls, my social, and there's so many things to work on the business that I perhaps underestimated when I first started out. And so do the work. It's going to require a lot of work. And what you may find is that some of the work you don't like. And it wasn't what you thought it was going to be. A lot of people open up a business because they love something and they think 100% of their day is going to be about doing that thing that they love, when in fact it's about 10% of their day doing the thing they love and 90% of them doing all the extra things that come along with running a business. And again, this is why people partner with others, because you can begin to look for people who have strengths that you don't. So I have a second company that I run with a partner, and she loves to do all the things that I don't. And it's a beautiful complement of our skills. And so by being able to partner with other people, sometimes that makes your work a little bit easier. So the commitment to being an entrepreneur, the commitment to opening your own business is that you're actually committed to doing the hard work that's necessary. If anyone asks me, like, number one thing that they should be prepared for opening their business, I say save money and know that it's work. And I narrow it down to just those two. I don't think people realize that impact of both those things on success. And the number 10 thing is I want to talk about crafting your legacy. So every day, every moment, every conversation that you have, every email or text that you send, I call those micro actions. And all the micro actions of your day make up kind of the person who you are and how you communicate and how you impact other people. And it's the story that other people have to know more about you and to be impacted by your micro actions every day. So let me ask, excuse me, sir, what's your name? Christian. Okay, so let's say Christian leaves school today and he's walking across, is that Studebaker, and he gets hit by a truck. And unfortunately, Christian, sorry, I just killed you. Christian passes away. And all of us, since we really like Christian and we know him from school, all of us show up at his memorial this weekend, and we get the opportunity to stand in front of the microphone and say a few words about the impact that Christian had on our lives. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be summarizing all the micro actions, all the interactions that we had with Christian, and we'll say something like, oh my gosh, I went to school with Christian. He was such a good guy. He was so helpful. So many times he saved my rear when it came to class because he always had his notes. He was always offering to study with me after school, and he was just this genuine, really helpful guy. And I'm going to summarize all the interactions that I had with Christian. And so with you and you and you and you. Everyone has a story based on the micro actions of how you show up each day. So the plea that I have for each of you is to purposefully craft that legacy. See, when all is said and done, you end up with something, and sometimes it's called a reputation. Unless you purposefully play a hand in crafting it, and that's when it's called a legacy. So as a business owner, as an executive, as an employee, and even just as a human being, a parent, a sister, a friend, a mom, what kind of legacy do you want to live? What do you want people to say when they summarize what you're about? And I can tell you this, if you're living into that legacy now, that lays a beautiful road for your success as an entrepreneur. I can tell you a lot of the clients that I get now are people who worked with me 20 years ago, and they remember the micro actions that I had. Cecilia was always coaching people. She always was trying to help. She was always involved in training. She was always the person that was interested in learning more. And so that reputation and that effort that I put into how I was showing up pays off for me down the line. So you want to be purposeful in crafting that legacy. Now I have the picture of this guy up here. Does anyone know who this is? It's kind of just like old man picture from a long time ago. Sometimes people know who he is. So this is Alfred Nobel, and you guys have heard of the Nobel Prize, correct? All right. Well, a lot of times people don't know the history of Alfred Nobel, and he actually invented something. Does anyone know what Alfred Nobel invented? No? Oh, you do. Dynamite, which is super fascinating. He invented dynamite. And not only did he invent dynamite, he played a hand in the invention of the detonator, which proved very helpful for the dynamite so you didn't blow your face off, okay? And if you think about the time when Alfred Nobel lived, this is when we were expanding with railroads and we were going out west. So Alfred Nobel made a fortune in dynamite, an absolute enormous fortune. And one day something very unfortunate happened to Alfred, and his brother died. Well, his brother died, and the newspaper inadvertently ran Alfred's obituary instead of his brother's. And so Alfred woke up one morning, he opened the newspaper, and there, for everyone to read, was the story of Alfred Nobel's life. And he read it, and he didn't like it. He didn't like that what he was leaving the world with was this legacy about death and destruction of things. And so he took his vast fortune from the dynamite industry and he created the Nobel Foundation, where he said, I will award recognition, global recognition, cash prizes to the people who are changing the world for the better, in peace, in medicine, in literature. And so we know the Nobel Foundation. So now when we think of Alfred Nobel, we think of his foundation, we think of him doing good for the world. So if you stopped at this moment in time and you said, I don't know if I would like that legacy written on paper, you can change it. And how do you change it? You change it by those micro actions that you're doing every day. How you email people, how you text someone, how you call them, how you respond, how you show up, the smiles that you give, the doors that you hold, the courtesies that you extend, the advice that you share, the help that you offer. All of those things are paving the way for your legacy. And as a business owner, I'd imagine that these small efforts that you're making now will pay off dividends for you as you're trying to get people to engage with your business and to be a part of your success, that your legacy is going to lead the way. So don't wait for the Mack truck to run you over on Studebaker. Start living that legacy right now. It's the things that you do daily, and it's basically making a choice to show up as a leader. And you have a choice to make every day. And those are the things that are going to start to cement in you and become your future habits. So if you live into them now, then your future can only get better because of the things you're doing now. Awesome. Those are my tips. My name is Cecilia Gorman. I would like to just close with saying, listen, anyone can open a new business. And this is evidenced by kids that we see that are 12 years old or 10 years old opening up businesses online. It doesn't take a PhD in economics or a master's in entrepreneurship. Anyone with a computer and access to an online website can start a business in a heartbeat. whether it's successful, and the degree of success that it has depends on each one of you and the efforts that you make. So I hope you take these top 10 tips and put them into use. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. In a previous job, I was a recruiter and a career coach for people in college just getting their start out. If you would like me to look at your LinkedIn profile and give you some comments back on how it's working for you, I'd be happy to do that. Connect with me and send me a note if you would like, and I'm happy to be a resource for you. I appreciate Cerritos College for asking me out, and here's how you can connect with me if you choose to do so. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for being a part of Business Week.